But it seems to me that all that depends on something else. The solution of your gravest problem of all, the world shortage of raw materials.
Europe can never be self-sufficient in materials, that's certain. But she is taking steps to make better use of what she has. Take this huge plant. It's a new kind of plant altogether, and so far there's nothing quite like it anywhere else in Europe. All these towers and pipes have just one purpose, to extract chemicals from petroleum. What's going on inside? The structure of the petroleum molecules is being changed into other substances, new substances. Polystyrene, for instance, from which all kinds of things can be manufactured. Radios, telephones, paint, even nail polish. That's one way we're meeting the shortage of materials, making fuller use of what we buy from abroad. Here's another way, expanding the use of materials that are locally plentiful. Greece needs buildings of all kinds, desperately. Around the Piraeus, cement has been made for some time on a small scale. Now they're extending the plant enormously with the help of American aid, and they're getting results quickly. You'll find the same thing in the northern countries. For example, they've set up a new plant in Norway to make carbide from local supplies of lime and hydroelectric power. I mentioned American aid just now, and that's how a good deal of it has been used all over Europe to assist projects that in one way or another will contribute to assuring European industries of their future supplies of raw materials.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But now tell me something. Say, what's this?
Ah, I wanted to show you this because it sums up what we've been talking about, and sums it up in terms of a product basic to all modern progress, steel. This is believed to be the earliest steel-producing plant ever commercially operated anywhere. It was installed here in Swansea in the 19th century, in the days of what you could call the first industrial revolution. When it was opened, it was one of the wonders of the world. And believe me, it made good steel. In fact, it was one of the plants that gave Europe its reputation for leadership in the production of high-quality goods. Well into the spring of 1951, this rickety, clanking machinery was still working, still producing 2,000 tons of good steel a week. That speaks volumes for the old-time engineers who built it. But in Europe today, at last we are alive to the danger of just falling in love with history. Obviously, a modern plant of the same size could be producing a great deal more steel of the same high quality. The steel that all the factories and shipyards of Europe are shouting for. In the past, we tended to rest too much on our industrial laurels, to fight shy of bold improvements, to say what was good enough for Grandpa is good enough for me. Now we know we have to face the fact all down the line that what was good enough in the days of the first industrial revolution isn't good enough anymore.
You mean we're living in another century now? Maybe the century of the second industrial revolution.
Exactly. And it's you Americans who started it. Look, here's an example of the second industrial revolution. This is the new Abbey Steelworks at Margam in Wales, opened in our festival year. Its output already is 1.5 million tons of steel ingots a year. Compare that with the output of that old plant. And by the way, there's a postscript to the story of that old plant at Swansea. Even in death, she's giving one last service to the steelmakers. For the salvaged scrap from her dismemberment will go as raw material into the furnaces of her mighty successor at Margam. There's nothing completely revolutionary about it. The principle of making steel is much the same as it was 90 years ago. Where you can speak of revolution is in the manipulation of steel and the factors making for high productivity, the methods of organization. the use of machines to do every sort of dog work. And behind it all are the craftsmen, with their skilled, creative brains and hands, turning out in infinite variety of shape and size, a material vital to nearly every industry in Europe, today and tomorrow. Men, materials, and machines. In the pulse and pattern of their increase, Europe sees the promise of an abundance she has never known. If now she must direct a portion of their growing power to the purpose of defense, it is to this one end: that the vision of a good life for all her people that Europe is striving to fulfill, that grand design in which her industries themselves must play the leading part, shall go forward, not faltering in fear, but in the certainty of strength. With such a shield, the achievement of the grand design that Europe draws for her posterity is sure.